Cinematic Shuffle has shuffled once again, this time transporting me back to the year 2007. If you guys were around last week, you would have seen me give off my 3 hints as to what this film was going to be. Those hints were Scarlett Johansson, Chris Evans, but not MCU. The film in question, of course, was The Nanny Diaries. None of you got it right, but one of you had a pretty solid guess, because apparently the two were in yet another film together in 2004 called The Perfect Score. I did not see that, nor have I ever heard about it before, so I added that to the database of possible first watch films. Thank you for that, Mr. Sticky. As for The Nanny Diaries, let's get cracking. The Nanny Diaries focuses on Scarlett Johansson's character Annie, a woman that doesn't really know who she is or who she wants to be, so she takes on the identity as a full-time nanny for a rich family that doesn't really have time for their own kid. While on duty, she runs into Harvard hottie played by Chris Evans, who she starts to fall for. That's a bit problematic though. Her rich employer will fire her in an instant if she isn't perfect at the job, and dating has historically proven to be a distraction for former nannies, so if she dates, she gets fired. Before I go on with my review, make sure that you head over to my Twitter handle at IAMDWG, which is where I first post my hints for the Cinematic Shuffle. That's usually over on Wednesday. The following Thursday or Friday, I do the same thing over here as a YouTube short, so I'll see you then. But now, let's talk about The Nanny Diaries. This is the first time in Cinematic Shuffle history where I didn't actually remember anything about this movie, including the fact that I saw it. The only reason why it was in the list to begin with is the fact that I have proof that I wrote a review for it 15 years ago. I just didn't remember watching it. So after I watched this movie, I went back and I read the review, and I can say one thing. How I feel about it now more or less mimics how I felt about it then. And that is just the mere fact that I like it. But now I have the included job of trying to find out what it was about the film that ended up being forgettable for me. I think I understand what it is, but first let's talk about the positives of the film. Because in general, there's a lot going on in this film that impressed me from a technical side of things. First of all, it clearly has an artistic vision for the film that immediately stands out to me. One of Annie's favorite places to go is the Museum of Natural History in New York City. And of course, what do you find in museums, specifically that museum? You find a number of wax figure displays, and throughout the film, there's a number of wax figure displays in the museum of modern New York people, and that to me was awesome. I found that really, really cool and unique. And there's also the fact that this is told through the veil of a woman's diary, so it's not always grounded in reality. So at one point, she flew away holding onto an umbrella like she was Mary Poppins or something. There's that, and there's the unique nicknames that she gives people, like her employers, Mr. and Mrs. X, or Chris Evans's Harvard hottie. To me, that was funny. The editing as well. There's a lot going on there in terms of transitions that I thought was incredible. So to me, it stood out quite a bit as things that you don't normally see in any given rom-com. Not only that, but I hardly ever laugh watching rom-coms anymore, but I laughed here a few times. Overall, it was a good time when it came down to the visuals, to the editing, to the music choices, and even some of the dialogue in the script. I also kind of have to mention the film as a whole is heartwarming, and everybody performing did a pretty great job, especially the parents, Mr. and Mrs. X, who from the very beginning, you're supposed to hate. The mom's played by Linney, the dad, Paul Giamatti, two actors that you know very well. Paul specifically plays a scumbag. He does his best for you to hate everything about him, and he does it magnificently. He's horrible. Linney, to me, she's the MVP of the film because yeah, you hate her, but at the same time, she's so complex of a character that she also has aspects that you love and that you feel sorry for. And honestly, she did a pretty great job portraying that. Scarlett Johansson, she did fine. Her best scenes honestly had to do opposite of the kid that she was caring for. And that kid, again, very good performance that you won't really think about that much right away, because at first, he's a bit of a problem child, you know, it's funny, it's hijinks, you know, there's this nanny that's never done this before in her life, and she's dealing with a kid that's making her life hell, it's funny, and then he's a kid that you love because he grows fond of her character, and you learn all this is just because he's lashing out and he just wants to be seen and loved and understood, and that's the part of the film that breaks your heart a little bit, and it's also what makes it heartwarming too. It's hard to explain, but I still have to answer the question, what didn't work? What about it made it forgettable? I think that has to do with two things. In 2007, I didn't really know too much about Scarlett Johansson or Chris Evans. I'd seen them both previously, of course, Scarlett in The Island and Chris Evans in both Fantastic Four or Cellular, so I knew of them, but I didn't know them like I do now. And today, it's like the difference of seeing an old acquaintance and seeing a close friend. So just because it's them two alone, I should be able to remember seeing this movie more so now than I did before. But another reason I feel like I forgot about the film is the story, the nanny story. Now look, it is very heartwarming, but the fact that she takes this job in the first place because she doesn't know who she is makes her character purposefully empty. It gets to be somewhere eventually, but that foundation isn't much to write home about. That's a common problem that I see sometimes. Characters that aren't very memorable because they're written to be unmemorable, written to be shells essentially. And that aspect, the thing that the film hinges on, Scarlett Johansson's character Annie trying to figure out who she is, or her problematic relationship with her own mom, etc. That's the stuff that I'm already starting to forget again, because it's almost something that seems pointless or filler at the end of the day, and it takes away from what really works for the film all around. Other than that though, the movie is made well, very well. Like I said, I am glad that I got the chance to check it out again because it is a solid rom-com. It's heartwarming, it's heartbreaking, all that. It's worth the watch, if only just for a rental. With that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at what I scored the Nanny Diaries, which was a B+ letter grade, final overall score of 82%, 82 out of 100 possible stars. Overall, like I said, I liked it. I think it's probably more memorable now than it was in 2007 because of where Scarlett Johansson and Chris Evans have gone in their careers. But overall, I think it's worth the watch. Guys, have you seen the Nanny Diaries? If so, let me know your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. And as for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit the like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next installment for the Cinematic Shuffle. And until then, peace out.